how do I even begin this? Outside of the fact that I broke out the flannels again. Hooray! It feels nice to wear these again. I miss wearing these. You know what? If only I could just talk about that the entire time. But there is definitely something I absolutely need to bring up. So I'll get to my act of kindness before I talk about my high and my low because they're both interconnected. My act of kindness was I helped prepare dinner last night with my mom and dad and helped clear the table when everything was over. Boom. Done. That's my act of kindness. So my high and low are basically intertwined with the NFL playoffs, specifically last night's game. Good morning, happy Monday, everybody. And I'm just saying for right now, this video will be dedicated to the Bills Mafia. And it'll be explained why momentarily. Honestly, again, considering the game last night, I might as well be wearing black. Because, yes, we were treated probably one of the best games this decade. But when you have an outcome that is revolved around a coin flip, and that team loses because of said coin flip, that's just not fair. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, last night was a playoff game, divisional round, between the Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, I want to begin this video by prefacing this. I've said this before, I am a Cowboys fan. That is my top priority. However, there are some teams that maybe have a player on that team, or maybe the narrative dictates as such. But there are several teams that I just simply have a soft spot for. The Raiders, the Bengals, and honestly, as of late, a little bit of the Broncos, just to name a few. Well, partly because for that one I have family that lives out in Colorado, of course. But I live in upstate New York. I am completely and utterly surrounded by the Bills Mafia. I absolutely have to at least have a soft spot for the Bills by proxy. And I do. So needless to say, my heart completely sank so deep last night after the Bills lost, it might as well have been at the bottom of the Mariana Trench. For those who don't know, the Mariana Trench is the deepest part of the world. So, you can imagine, I feel horrible. But the outcome of the game is what really bothers me. Because the game ended in overtime. Now, if you don't know how overtime in the NFL works, don't worry, I'll be nice. You guys know me. If something needs explained, I try to explain the very best of my ability. So, obviously to get to overtime, the score at the end of regulation has to be tied. In the beginning of overtime, the first score wins the game. And by score, I mean if a team scores a touchdown, the game is over. However, if a team has to kick a field goal, the other team has an opportunity to retaliate. But it's that first part where everything gets fundamentally flawed. That means if your opponent gets the football and they score a touchdown, the game is over. You do not have any opportunity to even remotely retaliate. And maybe try and come back and maybe start all over again. Now, I try and look at this in two ways. One, from the perspective as to why these rules are necessary. And naturally, of course, I'm going to talk about what I would do to change these rules. Because, honestly, a lot of people really are sick of these rules, and I've heard a lot of really good ideas to change them. So I'll get to those momentarily. But first, let's talk about why these rules are there and why they're necessary. And it really is as simple as, look, an NFL game takes at least 3 hours to get through, if you're lucky. And by the end of the game, we want it to all be over, win or lose, because we all have stuff to do, we all have places to go, or let's say that you want to watch another game that's going to be on next. You can't watch that until the other game is over, until this game is over. You know, we basically just want the game to end so we can move on with our day. I get that. That's necessary. Especially if you're a fan who traveled very far to get to that game and you got to get home to potentially catch your flight. That's perfectly fine. Or, you know, maybe you just rent a hotel, maybe you catch your flight the next day. Whatever. The point is, people have stuff to do. So needless to say, for a game that lasts at least 3 hours, having it go on longer can get pretty annoying. I get that. And I totally agree. That's always what happens. But in a game of this magnitude, it's simply not fair that the Bills did not get an opportunity to even try and retaliate because of these overtime rules. And that's just not fair. And keep in mind, I'm a Cowboys fan. I honestly really don't have much of a right to complain about this. Especially when my Cowboys have actually won because of these very rules. However, a lot of fans in the NFL really are sick of these rules. And before anyone goes and say, oh, well, the Chiefs fans aren't complaining, they won because of these very rules. Yes, but if you recall, not that long ago, the Chiefs lost to Tom Brady and the Patriots in the AFC Championship because of these very rules. So don't act like I don't know what I'm talking about. So, the question remains, what would I do to change these rules? Well, honestly, over the years, I've heard of several pretty solid ideas. Now, I gotta preface this by saying, technically, these ideas are also fundamentally flawed. But honestly, they're better than what these overtime rules we currently have are now. And if anything, these ideas would potentially make people on the edge of their seats more, therefore making the game more exciting and entertaining. And guess what? It would make people want to watch football more, and so the NFL can make money. Again, don't you even act like I don't know what I'm talking about, because I do. So, one particular idea I have comes from legendary special teams guru Pat McAfee. For those of you who don't know, Pat McAfee played in the NFL for the Indianapolis Colts as a punter and kicker. And he was actually a pretty darn good one, I might add. In fact, honestly, considering how much of an impact he still has on football now, because he has like a podcast and he does like a lot of talk shows and interviews and stuff, between what he did on the field and what he does off the field in retirement, one day I think Pat McAfee might get himself a gold jacket, but that's beside the point. By the way, gold jacket means getting into the Hall of Fame. But again, that's beside the point. He actually had a pretty solid idea of and keep in mind, yeah, he was a kicker, so maybe he was speaking from a rather biased perspective when he came up with this idea. But it's not a bad idea whatsoever. Basically, just have a field goal shootout until one team makes it and the other one misses. Boom, problem solved. In fact, my spin on that is, if you really want to add to the stakes, for each and every kick, increase the distance a little. Like, say, 5 yards a kick. That wouldn't be a bad idea whatsoever. You make the game more exciting. You know, people are on the edge of their seats. Special teams actually get a little more love because ultimately the game does fall on special teams. And you don't necessarily need to have your ball in the hands of QB to determine the outcome of a game. That's actually a pretty decent idea. But again, the inherent flaw with that is, ultimately, yes, special teams are special teams. The game really ought to be decided by offense and defense, because that's what got to them in overtime pretty much to begin with. Okay, well, why not 2-point conversions? This is actually what they do in college, by the way, where basically in college for overtime, they have 2-point conversions until a team wins. Obviously by one team scoring a 2-point conversion while the other team doesn't. If at some point during that time, both teams don't score, keep going until someone does and someone doesn't. That works just fine. But again, there's an inherent flaw with that too, because it adds to the problem of, again, the game has lasted how long at this point? People got to go home. They have stuff to do. Places to go, people to see, etc. What these ideas, the field goal shootout or the 2-point conversion thing, are they flawed? Absolutely. Would they make the game go on longer? Again, absolutely. But at least they're definitely more fair than what we have now. And yes, again, I'm just speaking on behalf of the fact that so many teams in the NFL over the years, be it in the playoffs or the regular season, have lost because of the current rules for overtime that we have. I've seen my Cowboys win because of these very rules. I've seen my Cowboys lose because of these very rules. So honestly, considering how annoying they are overall and how not really fair they are, why not change them? And here's the thing. I'm not saying to change everything to, say, college level. Again, the 2-point conversions. Just do that part. Just change overtime to something like that. It'd be more fair. And again, some people probably went, well, you probably have to go to opposite side of the field each time. No, you don't. You really could just pick one end of the football field to do these field goal shootouts or the 2-point conversions. And just stick to that side. None of this tedious walking from one end of the field to the other. That'd be fine. That would work. And again, it's fair. And that's honestly what the NFL ought to be. Fair. And here's the thing. It's not like having these rules in effect would make the NFL perfect. Because let's be honest, the NFL is both a product, a franchise, a sport, all that is all fundamentally flawed. I can make a video talking about all the flaws of the NFL wholesale, and it'd be probably 3 hours long. But if you at least want to make the game fun, some people wouldn't change these rules at all. I get that. Some people find these rules absolutely fair until these very rules screw them over. So there you go. And again, what happened to the Bills last night literally happened to the Chiefs in the AFC Championship against Tom Brady and the Patriots. And you can believe a lot of Chiefs fans were complaining about this very thing. So, I guess, as the saying goes, things are rough all over. I just want to end this by saying, to the Bills Mafia. First of all, I made this video for you guys. This video is dedicated to you. I got your back. It was devastatingly heartbreaking what happened to you guys last night. And I feel horrible for it. I wish it didn't happen to you guys, because you know what? Again, were it not for a coin flip, and that's how that's how the possessions of overtime are determined. Basically, a coin flip determined the outcome of last night's game. You see why even more of these overtime rules are fundamentally flawed. And if Josh Allen has the ball, you guys win, hands down. But then the Chiefs fans would be complaining about this very thing because it happened to them once. It would basically happen to them again. So that's why these rules are even more fundamentally flawed. All I can say is to the Bills Mafia, you guys know who you are. You know what? I'll say this. You guys are the best fans in the NFL. And honestly, you're handling this a lot better than us Cowboys fans would. In fact, I straight up envy your patience. I do. But maybe someday the rules will change. But until then, it is what it is. I'm sorry, Bills Mafia. Honestly, you do deserve better. And I have a feeling one day you're going to get it. Because you know what? Yeah, I'm a Cowboys fan. But you know what? I'm surrounded by you guys. You guys are very wonderful, wonderful, wonderful people. I'm friends with a lot of members of the Bills Mafia. It's basically fans of the Buffalo Bills. But you know what? The Bills Mafia is a cool name. So, yeah. You guys are awesome. Very wonderful group of people. Albeit sometimes a little bit crazy, you know, jumping on tables and breaking them and stuff. But you know what? You guys are having fun. And I know for a fact your day will come one day. And I get the feeling Josh Allen is going to lead you guys there. But until then, everyone in the NFL has to stick with these rules. And it just plain sucks. Like, favorite, share, subscribe button, follow me on social media platform, Translation, YouTube. I am very home this video for all of you guys watching. Enjoy today. Hopefully a wonderful, wonderful Monday. And Bills fans, keep a chin up. You guys played your hearts out last night. And remember, if you guys want to talk, channel is going to be here to lend you. And always have your back. Take care and make good choices. See ya.